to a permanent ban. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up.
You guys watch out, bitch! If you're an expert, this camera guy will gank you in the face with this big bad hammer. Remove all your ears, throw your ass in the slammer. Make you share a cell with a manic-esque spammer.
Like a never-ending spam threat on racist biking. This song has something for everyone's liking. Holy shit, I see locum spiking. Ladies and gents, it's Techno Viking. Fearlessly, excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. Never standing still, we roll with the punches, moving for the kill. The competition ends up 6 feet in the ground. With fistful of awesome, we go round after round. United we stand, never ever growing weary. We cannot fall, cause gravity is just a theory. We reach higher than the giants in operations. Patience, soon we'll be quip-bucking in stations. Oh my We're more agile than a president, dodging a shoe. We need 3 continents for our massive crew. From Atlanta to Shanghai to the Icelandic nation. Throw your hands up for world domination. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to My Clash Podcast, episode 63. We can still count here. Calling this episode Failure and Success. Motivation in EVE Online. And we've brought some failures and some success stories on to discuss their personal stories and how they stay motivated in this dull and dreary game, which can be sometimes. But let's introduce them first. All returning guests of the show. We'll start at the top with John.
Hello, I'm Jon Draper, director of Apotheosis and director in the Wormhole Alliance Rejection of Sovereignty.
Beautiful. Knight.
I'm Knight. I am also from No South. I am a line member in there, though I do some Indian stuff.
Beautiful, beautiful. Riordan.
Hey, my name is Riordan Munqidh. I'm with Avalanche within Triumvirate, general line member and terrible solo PvP pilot.
You know, it's really hard to be good at solo PvP.
So aren't we all?
But that's half the fun. Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us. I apologize about last week's episode not making it out on any timeline that was feasibly human. We had some technical difficulties on the website side. I don't know what I did. I must have updated the wrong thing. I couldn't post the episode. Yeah, and Kale's busy in the field. That's why he's not joining us tonight. So you're stuck with me, Meredudd. I'm still with Iron Armada. Still fighting the good fight out in Fountain. We're having a lot of fun with Atlas Alliance right now, as they can't diplomatically decide which way to put their ass. So we're just fucking them, and it's good times. And that is what my alliance mates are up to. We might be joined by my CEO, Trigid, a little bit later, and anyone else who stumbles in through the front door here, as we're just sharing stories tonight. So it's good times.
Always love the storytelling.
Yeah.
Storytelling is the best part of Eve.
I mean, yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the kind of reason and fabric that holds together the game. Like it's the stories that we develop, right?
Yeah, and it's what a lot of people on the internet will say they prefer over the game itself.
That is a common theme.
You go to any Eve-related article on the internet, the top comment will always be, "We'll never play Eve, but love to read about it." Every time, without fail.
The best thing about Eve is the communities that are grown there. So, even isn't the best game, but it harbors good communities.
Help, I have developed Stockholm Syndrome.
You know, that
Just
might have
noticed.
occurred. I sometimes think that. Are we just patting each other on the back to keep each other interested? So you'll stay in the room, so you won't feel alone.
It's just a big circle jerk.
Life is a big circle jerk. What are you saying?
Oh, Eve is. We're all just nice to each other. Too much love.
Well, we'll start with our tiny smidgen of CCP news before we get into our main topic. This week, CCP Fozzie announced the intention to make changes to the fuel base. A little while ago, there was an announcement and a release that the isotopes were going to be halved in size. And everyone was like, yay! Half the isotope size. That means twice as much range for all of my jump-capable ships. I know you wormholers don't understand, but we have to jump things further away. You just can't use wormholes for everything.
If we do blobs,
We know what blobs are. Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and also the dreads do have a jump drive.
Uh-huh. How many Sino modules do you own?
I have a BPL of it.
There you have it.
I have a few left over.
So the first step was this reduction in size, but obviously this was not the full intention of the changes, because CCP Fozzie came out this week with a dev post on the forums illustrating that he was going to increase the fuel usage by all capital ships by 100%, thus taking it back up to the same fuel to range ratios that we had pre-change. And it was also going to be an increase to Black Ops to 56%, so a little bit of a buff for Black Ops there. As a payment for this increase in cost of jump fuel usage, because you would need twice as many isotopes to take a jump now, there was going to be a bonus given to jump fatigue cap was going to be reduced by 20%. So that blue timer they would stack up would go from 5 days down to 4 days.
I think so. Because originally they wanted the timer to be reduced so that way people can play on the weekend and then wait the entire week. The work week for the people who work. They want that work week to be the time that they bleed off that timer. That was their argument.
I suppose it makes a bit of sense, but
So there was a little bit of backlash because Eve players don't like it when they are given something and then it is taken away. So in response to this backlash, and some of the feedback that was given through the forum thread, CCP announced that they would be increasing jump freighter fuel volumes in their bays by 20%, giving a little bit more oomph to those jump freighter pilots who saw such a huge potential in not having to fuel up nearly as often. So they gave a little bit of that jam, but not the whole jar.
Yeah, my understanding with a decent portion of this was placing a bit of enough economic barrier on jump fuel and moving capitals. I'm not certain how effective that would be, but I know that the worry for the jump freighter pilots is having to refuel yourself, like on some of those longer trips for, like, say, test guys who live out in Esoteria. That could be quite the trip and a whole lot of refueling.
So there was one more change they also implemented, a further reduction in the isotope volume by 40%, down to 0.03 meters per cube per isotope. So we all will get a slight increase in our range.
Exactly.
But yeah, I heard this discussed on Talking Stations, and yes, I liked some of their points that they were discussing around how, jump logistics should be, they're not really going to be hurt by the blue timer, because most pilots, if they're moving in part of a capital fleet move op, are not going to let their blue timer get above 1 day, lest they be screwed if anything bad happens.
Yeah, I suppose, though, I can tell you on certain rage forums, it's just not going to happen that way. My story with regards to that being recently dropped on, and this recent being within the month or so, DRF's move op when they were heading back up north when they were still fighting GOTG. We had to jump about 3 or 4 times immediately simply to get in range to hit that move op. And oh boy, there went a week of that capital pilot.
Yeah, I mean, that sucks. It's a terrible punishment for undocking and trying to get into something, but there was a good post on Reddit this week by Muckbarovian, kind of illustrating how jump caps used to be, and how jump caps used to not have fatigue, and then pre-fatigue you could expect a jump capable capital ship fleet to just show up at every big fight, just reliably. If a big fight was going to go down, it was going to turn into tie-dye. Any big capital fleet, if they so wished it, could show up to any big fight. And that was garbage. It was fun that you got into these big 4,000 man fights, but you couldn't reliably use capital ships in a way that we use them now. I mean, the proliferation and the use of capital ships in modern EVE within your home region is quite prolific. Like, you can expect to get dropped by supers if you roam through certain regions.
Most certainly. And I know one of that, I forget the poster in this case, points about it was his one feeling about, or discontent about the new system, is how safe it makes home systems for that exact reason. Because you sort of have these domains of capital superiority, even if you're a smaller group. I actually think from a strategic perspective, it's very interesting, though. Like, if you're fighting in a war, you sort of have to push forward your lines and sort of do this island hopping campaign to give yourself capital superiority over different regions, and that's where a lot of good fights can come in. However, once someone's already established their sovereignty, and if you're simply roaming to try and harass, it means that you're at a severe disadvantage and they face very little chance of getting dropped themselves, that being the home defenders, when fielding supers in their home region.
But see, one nerf that comes to using supers in your home region is, if you've ever been dropped on in a frigate by a super, and that super pilot was maybe blowing 5-10 mil ISK, he doesn't care. Now he's blowing 20, 30, 40 million ISK to drop on a 5-10 mil ISK ship. And I mean, if you're moving a whole fleet, if you're moving 20 guys in caps and supers onto a target, you're dropping like 1 billion ISK just to land on grid to save an Astra House. Why are you spending $1 billion in fuel in order to save 1 billion ISK structure?
True, though, I get the feeling that oftentimes this is it's shows of force like that have meaning beyond the simple strategic objective itself.
I agree.
It's like when we were assaulting FCON, we triumvirate, we were dropping on next to anything. And we had this joke, hope positive, are we actually like making any significant damage, or is this costing us more? Because sometimes we were dropping on like T1 frigates if we had to. Ridiculous stuff. But the reason you do it is you let these people know that they're not welcome in the space that they are currently in.
And I would say that there's a morale purpose to it too. Are you going to be that group that just lets the enemy attack and reinforce you, or are you going to stand up and fight? No one wants to be a part of that Care Bear group.
Mm-hmm. And economic restrictions have historically not done a whole lot of good in EVE to stop people from using stuff. I mean, theoretically, CCP thought there was only going to be like maybe a dozen Titans in EVE when they started because they thought it's just too expensive. We tend to prove them wrong every time, though.
CCC tends to predict wrong.
Well, they predict wrong because they don't play the game the way we do. They create a game where this is how they, as a developer, would make it. And being a sandbox, we have a lot more freedom to do what we want.
Yeah, I mean, look at the development goal with an Astra House having a damage cap at 5,000 DPS. Why would you bring 40,000 DPS to fight over an Astra House when you only need 5,000? You could do 8 objectives, 8 Astra Houses with 40,000 DPS if you just spread them out and FC'd them correctly. But EVE players are EVE players, so we'll come in overwhelming force and avoid any risk that we're going to take any losses.
Granted, in undefended structures, I have seen groups bring out like bomber fleets of small groups who can easily hit the damage cap on their own. But if there's any chance of people fighting back, well, yeah, we tend to take it a little further.
All right, so the other winners in this change is ice miners. Apparently, ice isotopes, due to their reduced usage because of the changes in Lifeblood and several other changes, kind of pushing POSs to a less and less used system. Ice isotopes have dropped in price, and this change will bring a boon to every ice belt in your region.
I think that's also very good because there's a lot of incentives for standard regular ore miners, and now there's moon miners. But what about ice miners? Is this going to be put aside? Like, are people going to be doing the moon mining more just to make more money, or will there be more incentive for ice miners to actually keep on mining ice?
I could see it being an economic incentive, and certainly perhaps keep people away from just staying on the moons and harvesting that sort of thing, because it does offer a fairly sustainable source of ore in your system.
Oh, definitely. It's something that we wormholers are looking forward to, the moon mining.
Yes, please give me mining.
You can use those jump drive capable ships, the Rorquals, although I don't think you'll be jumping them much.
Who says we don't want to use them?
Yeah, we don't really want to jump them out of a wormhole.
Exactly.
We can jump him into the wormhole.
All right, well, that's mining changes, fuel changes. Not much of a big change, but some slight tweaks. Not much else out from CCB this week. Slightly longer downtime. They must be working on making sure that all the bugs and tweaks and errors that were in the Lifeblood expansion get fixed up. So there hasn't been a lot of announcements. Or a new development cycle on to the next phase.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they have the winter expansion to work on.
The winter expansion was Lifeblood.
Was it? Alright. I'm just dumb then.
The December changes are alpha skill points and the opening up of battleships and battlecruisers. And then potentially the faction Citadel change.
No, they said they pushed it back to TBD.
I see.
They want to focus on those structures that exist now, and I think that it's gonna come out well into probably summer or fall.
So, not for a while.
And then the January first quarter of 2018 changes are the Structures 2.0, which will bring 2 timers to inactive structures. And then the other changes, Void Bomb, a couple other things.
I look forward. Yeah, that's probably when they'll bring Wormhole mining.
Any siege, you can attack them at any point, and they get the pause attack mechanics.
I will say though, not having void bombs anymore might actually shift from a Macario meta to something else.
That is true.
It'll be interesting to see what happens here.
At least in wormhole space.
No, Macarios are used in null for Citadel bashes still.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking Macarios will still stick around because everyone's trained into them in nullsec space, and they're an easy doctrine. But I don't know. I think the meta in wormhole space might change up for home defense.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, we have a fight here that we're going to detail. A fight that didn't involve Macarials. Well, Triumvirate used Macarials.
Of course we did.
I was starting to fool myself. I was like, oh, no, never mind.
There's always Macarios.
So there's the kill board in Twitch chat. This was a fight in the system of Duo 51 in Wicked Creek. This was a fight of Triumvirate and Friends versus Manifesto and Friends. Looked like some of the Great Wildlands Conservation Society, FCON, a couple other groups snuffed out. It did not go well for the Manifesto defenders as they chunk away a few capitals, but most of what appears to be 3 or 4 separate fleets.
And shout out to my boy Alexi, who got primaried right as a bomb hit and didn't catch reps as a result.
Yeah, Triumvirate ended up losing 3 Phoenixes and a couple other small ships, a couple battleships, but yeah, the bulk of the losses were on the Manifesto side, with 45 cruisers lost, 25 stealth bombers, 3 dreads of their own, a fax, a bunch of other varieties of ships. Total losses for Manifesto coming up to 51 billion. Losses for Triumvirate, 16. This has coincided with a precipitous drop of the Manifesto Sov. They've dropped 14 systems as of recording. Might be even more.
I believe we may have also killed one of their main Fortizars.
Yep, 14 systems down in Sovereignty as it appears they are abandoning their holdings in Wicked Creek.
Rip.
Oh, Wicked Creek is such a terrible area anyway.
I spent some time there. It is an amusing place.
It's my original home.
Didn't need that space anyway.
I'll be honest, as a Tri member, this is sort of what's the word for it? It's not as climactic as I was hoping it would have been with taking out Manifesto, particularly after FCON had just fallen. Manifesto and Tri have an interesting history with regards to their relationship. Primarily being Manifesto used to be a member of Vanguard who claims that we have forced them, I believe, into Vanguard Coalition on the statement that they be destroyed otherwise. And they may have been plotting against us while they were within the Coalition. So when the whole war broke out with us resetting a number of entities, Manifesto was one of those people in our sights very early on as to who we planned to hit.
Yeah, we have had Peter on the show before, and he's he was talking about that incident back when they were in diplomatic hot water between Vanguard and FCON and their own groups.
Yeah, as someone who joined Triumvirate right as that happened, I can't claim to understand or have met many of the Manifesto guys when they were members.
Well, their holdings of Wicker Creek are now controlled by Stella Nova and a couple of their small groups. So they will be moving to find new homes.
It's my understanding with them considering joining the Great Wildlands Conservation Society. I don't know that that was exactly what they were going to do, but I know they had made overtures at some point to move there. I believe Great Wildlands may have actually been their home at one point.
Yeah, former coalition member of Iron's alliances here, Feign Disorder just moved out to the Great Wildlands Conservation Society as well. I mean, 2 years ago, you would have said Great Wildlands, haven for content, you would have got laughed at.
Oh, how times change.
I mean, don't try to roam there. It's fucking dangerous.
Nullsec seems to be dangerous like that.
No, they are aggressive about prohibiting you being around those station systems. It'll be like 4 guys in system, you'll roam through, you'll be like, where is everybody? And then you'll start to leave, and like 13 guys will come out of everywhere. Every gate will be Hector bubbled.
Now, the thing is, when I was roaming Great Wildlands as an explorer, I was not bothered at all. But that was my experience with it.
My last 2 roams there have ended in my death. Swift and outnumbered.
A lot of those guys are very interested in getting PvP, and they are very active about it.
Alright, so we'll keep an eye on where Manifesto lands. I already mentioned the brawls going on in Fountain, just kind of local content stuff, but good times as the diplomatic uncertainty of that region kind of works itself out. And is Tri enjoying cleaning up after this war?
Cleanup is never fun in this SOV system. We're certainly elated. We came out far ahead from what we thought was going to happen here, given the number of enemies allied against us. But groups like Darkness joining in and NC and PL really made things easier in the long run for us. But oh boy, SOV cleanup. Not exactly the most fun.
And this is the age of Citadels now.
Mm-hmm.
In response to a Wildstar's question, who's brawling who in Fountain? On our side, it's Iron, Wild Hunt, and we have some other blues in Fountain Core. And on the other side is Atlas, who brought in Imperium Divine and Septicemia, another small corp just formed an alliance. And they're part of a coalition. They're calling themselves the TARDIS Corporation Coalition. And yeah, it's been a lot of farming of those guys. I can't. There's some old grudges between leadership in our two groups, so yeah, that's fueling a little bit of the hatred.
Well, that's the best kind of conflict right there.
Blood feud.
I feel like we're over farming them, but nobody agrees with me, so c'est la vie. All right, let's move into our main topic. If anybody else has any other points there before we jump in.
I'm ready to head in.
Oh, I'm hype.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this topic was inspired to me this week. I was listening to a Reuben Report, episode 1041. Holy fuck. He's been doing a lot of shows. Don't listen to that show very often. I find it challenging to listen to in the YouTube 3-hour format, but I heard that there's a podcast version of it. Maybe I'll have to find it. But he was speaking with Dan Carlin, another one of my favorite podcasters, the host of Hardcore History, and he also does, his other show is Common Sense. Both quite good shows. Hardcore History is probably one of the most popular podcasts out there. I mean, as far as... John, do you love Hardcore History?
I, as an academic historian, actually have a very good dislike of hardcore history.
What have you done? The
Sorry.
Francophile. You have triggered him.
He is a good appetizer for history,
He's
though.
an entertainer. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, like I know. It's more of the fan base.
He doesn't even claim himself to be a historian.
I know. Yeah. Sorry.
Anyways, he's a good podcaster. I really enjoy him. And their conversation kind of wandered from podcasting and a little bit of insider golf on podcasting and stuff like that, but then moved through motivation and how to stay motivated. As both hosts and guests on that show illustrated that they had failed several times in the podcasting game. They'd had lots of attempts at trying to make jobs work, make tasks work, try different fields, tried to get something to stick, you know, throwing a lot of shit at the wall and seeing what sticked. And eventually they got to the point where, you know, despite people telling them that 10 years ago that podcasts as a format were just crazy, who's going to pay for or want to listen to amateur content for several hours at a time? Like, people want to hear experts, people want to hear the news, people want to hear documentaries or produced, you know, written content by experts, you know. And I mean, that's turned out to be incorrect. I mean, podcasts are a huge medium available to everyone. YouTube is approaching the top of hours watched as far as people who consume video content. Twitch in its own right is all amateur content, of which some people have even risen above into stardom among Twitch viewers, for all types of games, for all types of content, for nothing in particular. And I mean, this is a digital revolution we're having right now as far as getting content out from, I mean, I'm in my bedroom, internationally, to everyone who listens. People across the world download this show. It's cheap. It's very easy for us to do here on recording side. It's very easy for you to download it and consume it because data is so cheap and widely available. And all of a sudden you can have a diverse and detailed availability of content from all across the world into your ears with very little challenge. 10 years ago, to those guys, that was the frickin' pipe dream. Like, are you crazy? You crazy? No. No one's going to pay for an ad spot on a 3-minute video about someone unboxing their fucking iPhone. Are you kidding me? Sounds crazy thinking about it now.
Does sound crazy.
It's because it is crazy.
But it's happening.
Yep, because humans are crazy.
We are crazy.
Us humans are pretty stupid things.
But it was those challenges. They were told that they were going to fail. They were told that it wasn't going to work out. They must have struggled when they had very few listeners or they got negative feedback. They must have saw that as a failure. And they detailed some of these things as they were going through the show. And even though they've been slogged and pushed down and hammered on and had some good successes and motivations and then maybe failed from those little slight endeavors or maybe had bumps in the road, they continued on. They've continued to be motivated, and now they are where they are, which is, quite popular in their own rights. They're quite successful, quite happy, and then they can take their medium and take it wherever they want. But that shit's not easy. But it's not hard either. It takes motivation. So, same is relevant within EVE Online. I think EVE, due to the way it's constructed, no fault to the game itself, it is what it is. There's no defined goal, or boss, or objective. There's no story that you need to complete. There's no single-player missions that lead you to the end and then you get credits. EVE is a sandbox. Probably the best sandbox, in my opinion. And we can play around in the sandbox forever. We can get dirty. We can build a castle. We can knock it over. We can build a new castle. We can knock that one over. We can lose it to some other guy. We try to flip the sandbox over.
Those castles tend to be hard to flip over.
Nowadays.
But the sandbox is so open and wide and vast. There's a guy right now on Twitter, might be a girl, not sure. There's a person on Twitter who is documenting, and on Reddit as well, they're exploring every system in EVE Online. They've completed all of known space, and they're currently 35% through wormhole space.
Oh god, that part's going to take a while.
How you know our pain.
But CCP hasn't told this person to go make that their goal. CCP hasn't enabled them to try to track, well, they can sort of track which systems they've been to, at least in known space. But there's no achievement at the end of the game. Congrats, you've explored every region in space, and every system, and every moon. You idiot. It's a personal goal taken on by that person, and it motivates them to continue playing. And people even want to hear about that story, because people read those Reddit posts, and they are upvoting. So obviously people are paying attention. I mean, I'm talking about it right now. Obviously I'm paying attention. So motivation in EVE is very challenging. It's very challenging because sometimes you can set really small goals that are really easy to achieve. Maybe these are goals that you've came up with in your head. I'm going to go kill somebody. Yeah, Doc, you killed somebody. Aha, I've achieved my goal. Oh, I got like a little bit of ISK, a little bit of loot. Don't know where anybody else is. The TV's on. I'm hungry. And then you log out. Maybe you want to make 1 billion ISK. I'm going to go make some money. I'm going to farm for a bit. I'm bored. Maybe I'll go play some PUBG. It's hard to keep that long-term motivation. Because short-term goals are easy to set out, but like the long-term goals, maybe they're too far out in the future. You might set a goal like, I'm going to become the greatest CEO that's ever lived and ever roamed in the game. Holy fuck. How do you break that goal down? It's almost unattainable as a goal. Do successful CEOs think that they're the best CEO in the game? Is there a point where you know you've made it into the best CEO of the game? Is it when someone knows your name? Is it when you're feared? Is it when a Diplo comes to you and asks for your help because you're the only guy who can save them? It's hard to say. So those long-term goals can even be very challenging and very disheartening to try to chase because you might not have the lily pads to help you advance towards that final goal. So let's talk about some of our personal stories as far as those long-term goals and those short-term goals that have kind of helped us motivate to undock, to get out there, to start a new spreadsheet, and to try to achieve something?
I think we should start with John.
Why me?
Oh,
I mean, my motivations are just I like building things, my motivation in Eve is different than some. I just like being useful. I like being helpful, and so that puts me into positions of, I don't want to say power, but they put me in positions where I end up helping corps, or whatever corp I join. I end up becoming middle management rather quickly because I'm the one who's actually capable of stomaching doing recruitment and stuff like that. So my motivation is just helping, being helpful.
So is it that small objective? Is it that building that fax? Or is it, getting another Astor House off the building line? Is it those little goals that force you to I gotta get some more minerals, or I have to do some more mining?
It sounds to me that John's interests seem very human, in a sense, trying to always be very connected to the people who are playing the game, which makes a lot of sense given Eve's such a communal space.
Yeah, because I'm a cap builder. I have all my cap BPOs. I order them and have people haul it for me. But it's creating systems that ensure that people can have fun and play the game. Because my role in Eve, especially as someone who's in leadership, is never do something that ruins someone else's gameplay. Always try to encourage gameplay or give people the tools. Because I'm not good at PvP. I'm not good at Eve, except for the industry part. So I just look to help other people have their fun.
And there's always someone who needs help. So that's your motivation.
Mm-hmm. Because even if the corp I'm in dies, well, there's another place I can go and more people to meet and help and do things.
This is part of what's so nice about Eve, is the different sort of experiences that each of us can have. Because in comparison, you're talking about trying to help people, particularly from a production and sort of logistical perspective, whereas that sounds like no worse hell than to me. I've never had the stomach for that sort of planning and that level of stuff, and there's nothing inherently wrong with having a different feeling on that. But it is quite interesting how we can have such very different ideas as to what our goals are.
Exactly.
So, Riordan, what are your short-term goals that keep you on docking every day?
In the short term currently, I've been, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, terrible solo PvPer. I've been trying to do a bit of that. US time zone content has gone down in try since Manifesto's just been booted out, so I don't have a whole lot of hunting grounds. So I decided I'm going to try and figure out what to do. And so I hopped into the Bring Solo Back channel and suddenly started seeing posts from a guy by the name of Lightblade, who was killing things like decent-sized combat ships in a slasher. And the last time I had flown a slasher was right at the beginning of the game, and I had always it'd been always that solo suicide tackle thing where I flew it immediately at the first thing that I saw. I tried to tackle it, I blew up, and then hopefully we got the kill. And so I saw this guy who was very much getting good kills on it, so I asked him what his fit was, how he was doing it. And so all of my most recent flights have been flying around this ship I haven't touched for a few months, realizing that I can actually make it into something that is quite fun to fly. And I can, with my now increased knowledge of the game, find some new enjoyment out of something that was such an old part of my own experience. I would also say that this is part of my overarching feel on Eve. I enjoy learning with this game because there's so dang much of it. You can spend so much time figuring out something new about the game, something you haven't experienced, or a ship like the slasher here that I've been talking about that just Like, oh, I never even thought of it as a combat ship in that regard, and yet suddenly someone else has taken a look at it from a different perspective, figured out how to fly it well, and now I can try and learn that myself.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
It's nothing like a new fit to like push you to get out and try it out, and see how
Or
that other
just
guy's
like-
done it.
Or just like do this like really stupid fit that no one thinks would actually be deadly, and then boom, you're dead. When I first started playing Eve, I joined this semi-industrial corp. It's always that group that's, oh, we're going to make everything and not buy anything. It was the pioneers of New Eden, and we were moving systems, and there was this one guy in a combat venture, who just hazed us all. Like, I lost a Vexer to him. So, like, yeah, like, I'll never forget that guy. I'll never forget Beef King. And he hasn't played since then, but, like, just being that person who does the impossible thing, or does the really silly thing, is a great way to, like, be etched in the memory of people.
And that's one of the biggest motivators for me in this game, because you can be that guy. You can't do that in a whole lot of other games, where you can be that one guy who flies a ship that, or looks like he's weak, looks like he can't do anything, and then suddenly, well, turn it into something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna get joined by +1 here.
Oh yay! Another cannon fodder. No, I mean person. Crap. Shh.
All right, someone get point on CapStrong.
Oh shit! I forgot. But I forgot my fit. I'm sorry.
Ah shit. CapStrong, introduce yourself. Who are you? Who do you fly with? Once you get your mic sorted out.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've been playing for 2 years, but I'm still fairly new. I'm a very old person.
We don't hold that against you.
Yeah, I'm confused. There seems to be a lag or something. That's scary. I hate my own voice.
You're gonna have to mute the Twitch stream, and then just listen to us here on Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much, youngsters.
No problem. Thanks for coming on the show.
I think I just wanted to get back to something earlier on. Sandpit is Sandpit. It's about social dynamics. It's a step away from your classic game. It's how you wish to play deep down internally. Surely not. Or am I wrong?
Oh, you can literally play Eve however the heck you feel like.
Yeah.
Right, but feeling like is not the same as who you are. No?
Oh, you mean the RP aspect?
Oh no, I'm way away from the. I have no idea about the lore and the rest of that stuff.
No. I meant
Like I
like
say, I've
RP,
only.
RP as in you RP your character, whoever that character is.
Well, no, the glorious thing about this game that few people seem to understand is that they're selling your data. You are who you are. It doesn't matter whether you have a single account with 2 other alts that fly. They're selling your real-time data. You are potentially skewing in terms of, especially no, they're feeding this data into AI. So depending on whose rules the AI system is using, they're feeding this broad scale. You think Hillmark gives a fuck? about what we do, what we say, what we chat about? He doesn't. He's getting more money from DARPA than I'm coming across as a conspiracy theorist, but in the 2 years I've played the game and run the newbie chats, etc., before of one, I'm not major, simply as an ex-military intelligence person, at how much this game, well, one, even the Matani is not that terribly successful at OPSEC, much as he's going to hate to hear that, but I'm never going to meet him, so I don't care. And where we're at sociologically in this game is about the late 14th century, when the first empires, the first Western empires were built. And you're right, it's about your collapse, and it will come from left field, which is why I never listen to people that tell me that I shouldn't dual armor fit or rep, or it works for me. I fly around, I do my own thing. I've met so many wonderful people, especially you youngsters, that it counts as my Twitter account. My Twitter account is nothing but depressing. I keep getting banned by people just for being old.
So what's the motivator that keeps you logging into EVE?
I love it. It's complex. It's incredibly complex. If you want to do well at it, you have to work hard at it. For me, I'm in a dead-end job. I'm about 3 years away from retirement, and I'll still keep playing EVE. Keeps me alive, keeps my brain from ossifying. But mostly, it's about the community. It's about the community. It's about watching you guys try and figure out stuff. I'm at the end of my life in terms of I don't need to figure stuff out apart from paying the rent. But watching you guys, watching this, it's not like the rest of the, I tried World of something or other, had dragons and shit in it.
World of Warcraft.
Oh, that would be the one. That would be the one. They had dragons and elves and all that sort of stuff. Tried that one. No. But here, in this community, you're a lively bunch. You're a lively bunch of fuckers. You like to lie, cheat, steal, do everything that you do in real life. I love it.
Well, it's a slight misconception. I mean, in EVE, as a player, I will kill, murder, maim, destroy to get to the best objective for me and my guys, for my tribe. But, I mean, outside the game, I think I'm more of a giver, like more of a socialist, more of an every person.
Nah. You are in game what you are in life, what you want to be in life. You always are. Anytime there is this removal of guilt or consequence, and we don't even die in this game, every time there is removal of guilt and consequence, your inner nature will fly forth, which is natural because that's what we are, naturally. We have several hundred years of construct, social construct put on top of us that gave us this modern gentle society, and it is a modern gentle society. I'm only 57. I can remember when I was 18 years old. I can remember life being a lot harsher where I grew up, a lot harsher. I can remember when I was 6 years old having to traipse up the back garden of my grandmother's house because my mother and my father couldn't afford to buy a house, to a shack to take a shit or a pee, because it was, even in those days, it was frowned on to pee on the carpet. In my lifetime, and like I say, I'm only 57, in the last 40 years, 45 years, we don't have to piss in the first world in an outhouse. However, I have lived and worked in places where outhouses were the only solution. China, Rwanda, most of Africa, most of the Middle East. I've lived and worked in those places. And to me, it's the ultimate. Watching you kids figure it out is beautiful to me. And I must admit, I should have said this before you invited me in. I have had a couple of beers.
That's all good. Now, what's your long-term motivation in the game? Like, where would you like to be? Like, where do you see yourself getting to as far as an EVE player?
Well, I just took the next step. I actually did something that a year ago I would have sworn up and down I would never have done. I joined a player call. It's a very small player call. To me, the next place I'm moving, T2 manufacturing, T2 mining, and no, I'm not interested in pew-pew. I've done more than enough of that shit in real life. Not interested in flying around and blowing people up. Interested in building. And as one of the contributors said earlier on, interested in teaching. But I'm not interested because, to be honest, if I set my mind to it, I could probably be really good. There's enough of you out there to tell me how to do it. You're all into PvP. None of you are into building. I'm interested in building. I spent most of my life tearing shit down at the behest of one government or another. I think it's up to 4. Tearing shit down doesn't do anything. Building does. I know it's not a popular point of view, but hey, that's me.
Well,
And no, I'm not going to join the EVE Online.
I want to thank you for joining us. CapStrong, do you have any shoutouts?
Nah, kick me out. Kick me out.
All right, thanks for coming. All right, so
Back on to our scheduled topic about failures and successes.
not every venture you stagger down is always successful. Sometimes you got to take risks, and sometimes it doesn't pan out. But Knight, do you have any stories on your short and long-term goals?
Oh, let's just go back a little bit to when I started playing. I'm gonna link a few kills in the Twitch chat because from when I started playing, I did a lot of solo PvP and faction warfare when I started playing. I joined this corp called Knights of Civilization or something like that. Can't remember. It was a decent low corp. Personally, I was pretty young, so I made some bad choices. 100 mil Enyos. I didn't have the skills for Tech 2 mag stabs back then. So I'm like, okay, I want to be as efficient as possible. I'm now going to blow 100 mil on this Enyo. I wasted about $100 buying Enyos, and Plex was about 500 mil, so $20 was 5 Enyos for me. So I made a lot of mistakes back then, but I continued to do solo PvP and I improved. I started getting kills and I was cost effective. I love the assault frigates. Sadly, they're not any viable anymore. So my kind of idea is I wish I could get back into solo PvP, but being in wormhole space kind of diverts me from being in normal space. I can't head out chained for too long, or else I'm going to get lost in K space. Doing solo PvP again would be wonderful, and I do plan on doing Bring Solo Back channel.
As someone from nullsec, the idea of getting lost in K space but being at home in J space is pretty hilarious to me.
Not everyone can be pro VGL.
I've been arguing for at least weeks that wormholers are all confused.
I think the K spacers are confused.
Wormhole space is where it's at. You get new connections every day. There's always someone new. You have a different neighbor every day.
It's like a boat home. You can just go, you can just undock, and then you'll be somewhere else.
So here was my story on a short-term goal here. So last couple weeks, I've been poking a couple of the former wormhole guys who are in my corp as to how to like good and abuse wormhole mechanics in order to get some good roams in. And one of the guys, Night Maulerant, he's one of our like most active PvPers in our group. Super cool guy, in my time zone, so I'm always talking to him. And I asked him, hey, what about these Jove observatory and the unstable wormholes? These unstable wormholes, I know they connect to the Drifter hive systems, and I know there's 5 of them, and I know they're weird. But, like, don't they have connections to all over space? And he's like, yes, they do. I'm like, okay, well, so if I scan them down and I go in there, like, it connects to all over the place, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, aren't there drifters? Like, aren't they going to blap me immediately? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, I don't believe you, but fuck it, let's try it out. So I grab a jackdaw, I throw some probes on there, and I head into the wormhole, and I start probing stuff down, and I burn the gap. No, I first did it with my Astero. I first went in with my Astero. I probed down 6 wormholes. The drifters didn't bug me. They just disappeared into the wormhole. I don't know where they went. They just disappeared. I got inside, scanned down a couple holes. Couldn't figure out why every bookmark landed me 80k off the beacon, but eventually I got the feel for that. That's just the mechanic. And I scanned down like 10 different holes. I didn't even scan down all the holes. There was probably 14 different SIGs in there. No, 20. It was like 20. I grabbed 6 that were stable. I left 4 that were end of life. And I just jumped through them, checked what's on the other side, bookmarked on the wormhole side, and I had 6 connections to 6 different regions. Went back to my home pocket, grabbed my jackdaw, grabbed a couple friends. Only one guy joined me at first, and the second guy joined me later. Like, fuck it, we're gonna go dive these systems. There's 6 fraternity VNIs in this system. There's a bunch of Pravi guys in this other system. Come on, let's go. Didn't know if I was gonna die to the drifters. Pretty good at solo kind of roamy PvP, so I'm always down for another bro. Drag my guys through there. Didn't know if I was going to fail. Jumped through. I hit 6 different regions. 5 different regions. I got kills in 5 different regions in 2 hours because of those bookmarks. VNIs, MTUs, a couple of small ships, Tyrannus, who thought that tackling my jackdaw was a good idea. He didn't even have backup. It was just him.
So Tyrannus, best Tyrannus, what are you saying?
But I had a great time hitting these 5 separate regions, a bunch of kills, 2 hours of fun. It was a 3-hour play session in total. But that risk of jumping through and trying out that new type of wormhole space, which obviously wormhole space is just AIDS. I don't want to go there. Why is there no local? I'm so confused. And I had a great time. In K-Space, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I'm just going to say the reverse of K-Space. There's fucking local. People know where you are. That's fucking shit, mate. To be quite honest, though, once you start living in the place, you start to get used to that environment, and you're used to spamming descan at least 5 times every second. So
Fair enough. All right, now one thing about goals and small goals, long goals. Sometimes when you're moving down that progression, like even if you succeed on your goals, sometimes you'll fail on them, and that'll trip you up. You'll stagger, you'll fall sometimes flat fucking hard on your face. Sometimes those failures are expensive. Whether, even if you're not paying for your ships through Plex that you bought with real life money, that time and investment into your ships or your citadels or whatever you've purchased, maybe it's just another industrial endeavor that didn't pan out or a market speculation that, you know, didn't come through. Those failures can be staggering. I mean, you've never heard someone on Reddit say that, oh, I lost my super, I'm fucking out, that's it, quitting the game. Because that's a significant loss. I mean, that failure, maybe not for their fault of their own, maybe they got caught on a weird jump, or maybe they bounced off one of their friends wrong. That loss can be really disheartening. So coming back after one of those failures, it's always more inspiring to hear how someone has achieved or come back after a failure like that. Even if it doesn't seem like a big failure to us, like, oh man, that guy he lost a freighter with like 4 bill in it. Who cares? Like 4 bill. That's like 1 hour in a wormhole. At least that's what I've heard. But like, to that person, that might have been their whole everything. Every ISK they have ever had, every ship that they've ever built, every module they've accrued, every Christmas gift that they've stocked into one station, and that Mini Love gank squad got them on the Narja gate. So I want to hear about one of your failures that at the end of it, you overcame that failure. You came back. Maybe you took some time off the game. Maybe you had to walk away from your computer, but you overcame that, what seemed like at the time a terrible failure. John, I heard you fail sometimes.
I'm Jon Draper. I make mistakes a lot. So I'll highlight 3 mistakes. One is just a PvP mistake that ended up coming with extreme diplomatic outcome. One is just a meme, and then a third is a very large lesson for our entire alliance. First one, I ended up... So I was in a wormhole. One of our people built a wormhole, and I trained into it. He left, and I bought it off him, and I was like, okay, so let me lay down these rules. This is what's going to happen when, if I take this out, that means that there's going to be a certain amount of people online, and we'll protect it. And it was a passive fit wormhole. So that's the first mistake. We ended up having Of Sound Mind, another Wormhole Alliance, in our chain, and they were kind of going back and forth. We were hitting them and they were hitting us, but no real combat. And so I decided to tempt them with this Wormhole. It went down extremely poorly, and we ended up making the quote Wormhole NATO because the agreement because everyone had such a good time killing my Wormhole that it created a political entity to protect other PvP corps that were getting evicted at the time. So that one kind of worked out well politically. Of course, we did end up losing like 6 bill of ships, but it's just ISK.
We killed sabers.
We killed like 5 sabers, so it's still a cultural victory. Let's see. And then there is my ever famous AT macro jump. And I'll link it in the Discord. But Yes, we were fighting against Ruckapel. Everyone important got jammed. I was jammed, and FC said put on your MWDs, and I for some reason thought I had the MWD. So I kind of learned macro jump drives are a thing that I had on my ship. And yeah, that one was just a mistake that I made. That one is completely on me. That was just a mistake of me not knowing what I was doing and freaking out because I was perma-jammed. Third one, and this is probably the most serious one. We recently moved into a C5 space, and working with Kyler Prothos, the CEO of Apotheosis and the leader of our alliance, he and I were trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to drop this Fortizar so that way we can so that way we can move into this wormhole and start actually, existing in it. So he recommended, and I went along, of just not telling anyone, kind of just surprising our alliance with it. We didn't really tell enough people. We weren't prepared with ships. I foolishly kept a low sec wormhole up so that way I could get a couple of ships in. There were mistakes all across the board, and as a result, we got our first Fortizar just wrecked by hard knocks. And this is usually something that would kill an alliance of our size, a wormhole alliance that just got destroyed. Instead of accepting defeat and just going to faction warfare as every defeated alliance does, we said, okay, no, we're going to do this correctly. We recreated our doctrine. We heavily invested in putting ships on contracts so that way everyone was prepared. We did everything we could just to make sure that this wormhole would survive. And we got it to work. That we lost like 20 bill on that first Fortizar, but we were able to get a second Fortizar up. And at the same time, we got our entire wormhole citadels up. But it was a shocker, and it made us realize what we were doing wrong, and that moving from a C4 to a C5 is a completely different thing. We learned greatly. And that's my major 3 big mistakes. I've done a lot of smaller ones, I think. Like one time I accidentally trashed a capital component BPO. I petitioned, they gave it back to me. And in the move, I accidentally trashed like 8 bill in modules. And CCP also gave it back to me. Because when you're tired, deliver to and trash are really close to each other.
CCP shines upon you, Jon Draper.
I give them enough money that they probably are like, yeah, sure, let's just help this poor solid. So yeah. Lots of lessons learned, and if anything, what I take away is that in Eve, mistakes will happen. You cannot play Eve without making mistakes. It's more of a matter of what are you going to do with the mistake. Are you going to learn from it, or are you just going to clump or just fall into a heap and accept it? And instead, every time I made a mistake, I've striven to learn from it.
Night, you got any good losses? Any good failures?
All right, let's check to see. Okay, first of all, let's start something which isn't on Zkill while I am looking at my kill board to see all my stupid losses. So recently, well, not recently, back when we lived in RC4, I was flying as Logi Anchor, because apparently I'm good at that. To keep so our Logi FC, I believe it was Lieutenant Stuffs, to focus on, coordinating reps and stuff. However, I also wanted to tackle a Bustard or something. No, Crane. I did not have a scram. I did not have anything on it. I jumped the hole in my Guardian, then jumped back, making myself paralyzed while the fight was starting. I screwed the up a lot on that day, and it became a forever meme where I'd be harassed by stuffs for it.
You back?
Yeah. Let's see, something else that recently happened. Let's post this in Twitch chat. I recently whooped my Loki because I wanted to try and kill Macario. Apparently, low-sec Rancer gangs are hard to kill. But I've been learning, making sure I don't make stupid mistakes like that. I've actually become a better Logi pilot overall and a better combat pilot from learning from these sadly stupid mistakes. There's a lot of mistakes. If you just check my kill board, you can probably find my mistake there.
Yeah, it's nothing like a good loss to teach you the power or level of another ship.
Mm-hmm.
Word.
I suppose it falls to me.
It does. You're next.
Crap. The thing with me, actually, in most of my ships is that I've never really had one of those massive losses. I've never, partially because I'm not much of a big ship kind of flyer. What I have had, though, is just a career of flying myself into stuff that's stupid. And if there's one thing to be said for it, it's for, like, overcoming anything. I would say it wouldn't ever have been like a loss. It would have been like a lacking amount of understanding. That's the best way to put this. My earlier EVE career, having started within about 2 days of joining EVE, I joined into Test Alliance. Had no real idea of what was going on and wasn't really certain of what I was capable of. So I had a long period where I was sort of ping warrioring, doing that sort of thing and not really understanding if there was anything else I could do. Ended up, the solution to that for me, or for a decent portion of time, I nearly quit EVE because I was like, there's nothing for me to do, I'm bored. Solution to that for me was actually having corp members who were very interested in bettering themselves. In particular, my current CEO, Rusrog, taking us out on a little deployment to Quirius at the time, where the Quirius Fight Club was, realizing that I had never flown small gang before, never really was aware of what you could do, and spending a little bit of time out there with them, suddenly realizing the amount of power you can have simply undocking with a couple of guys. Something that I had never realized, even as a new player, particularly as a new player, I should say, that you can really have a massive impact on something simply by being willing to undock. Don't gotta be good, just gotta be willing to undock.
For sure. Now, unintentionally, this so far we've only had ship loss stories, but I wanted to share one of my stories that I've probably shared before on the show, but I'll just share it again because it's pretty relevant here. When I came back from my second AFK from the game,
I'm back.
Oh, good. I had been AFK for maybe about 8 months. I think I went back to WoW for a little bit. I came back and my nullsec group had fallen apart, so I brought my stuff back to high sec, and I was a mission runner for a long time. I had a decent amount of ISK. I was kind of your typical high sec kind of guy who had dipped his toe into nullsec but didn't really understand the meta, didn't really understand where even my nullsec holdings used to be, which were apparently Providence. And I just wanted to get my foot back into nullsec. I liked the money, I liked the gameplay, I liked the kind of community aspect, and I enjoyed that like kind of big corporation kind of gameplay style that I had on other games doing raiding, and then I wanted it again in EVE. So I was really eager to join another big group and get into some decent, war or something. I just came back. Super hyper. I was, looking for any corp to join. It was of serious interest. And I had stumbled into people who were pinging a lot, which was a group from Test. And this is when Test lived in Delve. Delve and Fountain, I guess.
Ancient time.
Maybe before that. But Goons were still in the north. This was like 2013. And these guys from Test said they were recruiting. And that they owned a bunch of null sov. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And they showed me some maps. And I was, I'm keen. I'm ignorant. I'm Canadian, so I trust people a lot, maybe further than I should. And, I hadn't really encountered face-to-face or keyboard-to-keyboard with a lot of null players. And I wasn't really aware of that null backstabby kind of meta. I was very ignorant. So I took these guys on their word. They're like, oh yeah, you can join our group, no problem. Dreaded's always recruiting, so you can join us. I'm like, oh sweet. Well, how do I join? I want to join. Okay, well, just click this button. You can give us all your stuff, and we will ship it down to our nullsec base because it's really far away. And yeah, we can get you in, no problem. Like, oh, you want me to give you all your stuff? I can fly it down. I don't really have all that much. No. Don't worry about it. We'll move it down. It's really far. There's gate camps and stuff. You don't want to die. Oh, well, I died to gate camps before, and nullsec's dangerous. So I'll trust my new friends. So I gave them my stuff. Was a decent amount. It was all my stuff, essentially. All my stuff I had in the MAR. I think I had some stuff in my former mission hub and a little bit of stuff in Jita, I think. So I gave them all my stuff, and they're like, all right, great. Well, we're going to contract it down, but you're new, so we're going to need a little bit of insurance to make sure you're not going to screw us over. It's just a deposit. We'll give it back to you. It'll also make sure your stuff gets there. I already had sunk cost into this situation, so the sunk cost fallacy really picked up, and that, okay, I'm already in, so I might as well give you some money. And since I'd already shared my API, they knew how much ISK I had, so they just asked for half of my ISK. So I gave it over, reluctantly, as part of this transaction. And I was like, all right, great. Well, where do I set my home station to? And they're like, well, thank you for participating in our scam. And I'm like, whoa, no, I want to join your group. I'm a decent pilot. I'm willing to learn. I want to be part of your group. I want to help. Don't you need more pilots? No, we really just want your stuff. But thanks. How do you like our scam? It was pretty good, right? You serious? You don't? You're with Test? Okay. Well, fuck you. Fuck. And that really had me down. And that really kind of put me out for a while. I'd given up pretty much every ship that I'd owned and every module I had in Amar, and that was my whole cash. That was everything. I didn't buy Plex to convert it into stuff, so it was all earned with the sweat of my brow and losses of ships before that. And it was a lot of junk, to be honest. Looking back on it, it was maybe 750 mil worth of loot and ships, and maybe 350 mil of ISK. So a bill and a bit.
Which is a lot still for that time period.
It was. And it was almost everything to me. And it was tough. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I'd failed. Oh fuck, how did I fall for this scam? Fuck, how did I knew something was wrong. I should have gone with my instinct that something was wrong. That it was too good to be true. Fuck, why didn't I know this shit? And I was really down. But then I was like, nah, fuck it. No, I'm not giving up because of these fuckers. No, fuck that shit. And I pulled myself together, and I started down a path. No, it doesn't matter what all those little steps were. I took a bunch of steps. I eventually got into goons. Through goons, I was able to leverage myself up into a position where I could be part of an army. And that army one day turned its sights on Test. And when we went to Fountain, it was my passion and pleasure to undock with as many CTA fleets, as many call to arms, as many roams, as many gate camps as possible to fuck those Test idiots. To make as many of them pay for taking all my shit and fucking me over. So many Test bodies littered my kill board, way in excess of the losses I took. And it could have been different. They could have recruited me. I could have been a decent line member. I could have learned to meme. I could have memed. I could have spammed, Test Alliance, Best Alliance, and Local. I could have done it. But I didn't. So, I mean, that failure, that stumbling block of being scammed turned out to be a great motivator for me, as revenge was on the menu, and it's a dish best served cold through corpses, obviously.
Oh yeah, I have always said that angry stories and revenge are some of the best Eve stories.
Because, I mean, Eve is hard. And, I mean, some of the challenges that are placed in front of us are really freaking hard to overcome. I mean, that scam revenge took me 3 years. I mean, like, ship losses, billion-esque battleship, faction battleship gets ganked, that's quite a few hours work for most people. I mean, to overcome that first billion that I lost as part of the scam, the next billion I took maybe 3 months to re-earn. I now can make $1 billion in a couple days. A day, if I really put my mind to it. Not that I would. That ISK is laughable to me now, but Eve is a hard game, and it's challenging to overcome those challenges. So, I mean, getting up after you fail, it's all the more satisfying when you overcome whatever it previously was that caused you to fail, right?
Mm-hmm. It's stories of redemption and everything else, sort of hero's tale in a sense. Makes for a lot of fun.
Now, I mean, if you're a newer player, if you've got lost maybe in high sec or null sec, maybe you're in a group, I mean, that you maybe don't like what you're doing anymore, and maybe you're like a typical kind of player. I know I talked to lots of guys in my group. They're like, what's going on? Is there anybody in pocket? No. Is there any fleets up? No. Okay, I'm going to play PUBG. It's defeating. I mean, not that I'm saying you have to play Eve all the time, because that can be frustrating as well. But, I mean, undocking, getting out there, starting a new spreadsheet, starting a new endeavor, can lead to all kinds of positive knock-on effects, right?
And it's what I was trying to get at when I said the little small gang stuff got me back into Eve, because a lot of people don't realize what can be accomplished simply by undocking. You have a massive amount of power when you do something in this, because so many people do have a mindset similar to the one you were just talking about. The person who's like, there's nothing happening, goodbye, I'm going to go do something else. But you can do quite a bit if you set your mind to it.
There was a guy in my corp comms this week who was lamenting that he didn't know how to FC. Everybody else is so good at FCing. Our good FCs, they're so good. I could never be that good. Like, of course you can. Just get in a fleet.
Mm-hmm. How do you get a card into your home?
Like, the best Villy was never always Villy the great FC. He was probably Villy the line member at one point. Pro God didn't instantly become a good, Super Cap FC. He probably shitted it up with capitals for a lot of the time. Like, pick your favorite FC. He didn't start that good. Pick your favorite streamer. He was not always that good. And it was failures along the way that knocked them down as well, and they overcame those challenges to get to the point where they are. So if you get knocked down by a challenge or a failure, or maybe you lose something, or maybe something doesn't turn out the way you expected it to, don't think that that's the end of the line, that you can't progress any further. I mean, Eve's got a couple motivators out there, give you a chance, and maybe you're bored with what you're doing. You can try out some different things. The agency is a good way to try out a different type of gameplay. Even if you don't think the rewards are very good, just try to accomplish the tasks assigned to you in the agency and see what happens. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll like mining. I don't know who would, but maybe you'll like it. Maybe running some missions. Maybe just trying out burner missions. Do you even know what a burner mission is? It's like PvE, PvP. I mean, it takes some tweaks to get really good at it, but burner missions are some people's raison d'etre. Take that next specialist ship role from your line fleet and try to get into it. Learn about why a good scout is a good scout. Maybe figure out how not to lose a saber on every time you bubble. Try to learn how to do micro jump drive destroyers. They're pretty fucking sweet.
You mean Micro John Drive?
Micro John drive?
See, this is what I have to put up with. This is the fruit of my mistakes.
I mean, there's another one here for you, John. I mean, set goals in the AT or in smaller tournaments that less they keep running, hopefully. You can take a team and accomplish some goals within the AT. Even if the Eve kind of meta as far as what's on TQ kind of bores you, try out a different type of PvP. Try out a different type of content with Eve the community and get yourself engaged, re-engaged with the game, because you're already here because you love the community. But stay around and create more of the game for everyone else, including yourself, by trying out something different. And fuck those things that slow you down. How many times have I heard somebody like, ugh, no, it's too expensive. I'm not jumping in that Lachesis. It's too expensive. Ugh, a 3% power grid implant, 20 mil, fuck it. That ISK is nothing. It's super easy to get ISK. Even if you're a new player, ask a veteran player, can I borrow some ISK? I just need to get a new VNI. I lost mine because I forgot to turn on my tank and all the rats killed it. That person will likely help you out or point you to someone who will help you out. If you're in a larger alliance, they got SRP. They got ship replacement program. They got caches of ships for new players to try out, to just get out and get into fleet. Don't be worried about that distance to travel. If you want to go learn how to be that roaming Chesser pilot of the future, just hop in a wormhole. Hop in faction warfare space. Just start burning in a direction and see what happens. Yeah, it's 33 jumps, but in a scepter or frigate, that's like 15 minutes.
Or fly straight towards 7RM. Or GE TAC.
There's always content in those directions.
Oh, yes, there is.
Don't worry about those mechanics that, like, oh, man, like the FC example. Oh, I don't know how to FC. Well, just try it. I mean, the gaps will get filled in by your fleet members, by other FCs who are more experienced. As long as you know how to click join fleet, you're already halfway there.
And many alliances will have FC tools to help you become an FC. Most of EVE is interested in keeping you in EVE, so they will actively create tools or create means to ensure that you can keep on playing the game.
the last one I have here is social networking and putting yourself out there. This podcast is an example of that extremely. I didn't know when I started this podcast if anyone was going to listen to it. I just put myself out there. I started to network with people who I knew. And through this, I've met all kinds of cool people who, if I wanted, could get me into cool opportunities, who suggested me all kinds of cool things to read, things to watch, and new cool people to talk to. And it's an expanding circle of new relationships, new social interactions that are fun, exciting, and entertaining. Even if it's not even through logging into the game, these are just people I speak to on Discord or through the show. The social network on itself is a building onto itself where it will start building and growing, and you will start to see the product of your labor, and then that will start to extend further and further as the wings of your social network start to unfurl. Oh god, I'm sounding really ridiculous now, but you you are going to meet lots of cool people, and it's going to start to be way more than you expected it to be just by putting yourself out there and networking with other groups. Even if it's your enemy, even if it's the guy you just evicted, even if it's the guy you just potted on gate, start up a conversation with him. Tell him what you did wrong.
Yeah, it's one of the best parts about this. Talk to the person you fought, figure out what happened. You can find a great deal of friends amongst your enemies if you're willing to talk.
And don't be afraid to fail. Holy fuck, ask any FC. If you're wanting to get into FCing, they'll tell you, get into a fleet and go whelp it. And then go whelp another one. And then go whelp another one. If anyone were asked me how to get better at solo PvP, I'd say buy 10 of the same ship and go lose them all. Because you're going to learn something every time you die. You're going to learn something every time you whelp. Not every time you're going to whelp. Sometimes you're just going to succeed out of dumb luck. Maybe sometimes you're going to succeed because you just scare your opponent with the number of ships you have, and because some guy grabbed tackle on that extra Abaddon, you got an Abaddon kill. And everybody else got away, but you got a 250 mil kill, and your fleet goes home happy. Don't let a failure or lack of success stop you from trying something new or getting into a new activity. Killer B was just saying on this week's Talking Stations that he kind of got bored in the PL lifestyle, and not anything against his brothers in PL, but he decided, fuck it, I'm just going to try something new. And he joined a new group, and he joined NC. And I mean, it's still within his social group as far as the extended Pan fan, but he's found a new group of people that's reinvigorated him. And even though it's not in the same way that, you know, he was a big FC within PL, now he's the mining pusher of his new corp. And he's having fun just pushing guys out into Rorquals, out into belts, and mining his moon empire. But that's his little push. That's his new motivation. I'm sure he's teaching guys how to Rorqual mine, because apparently all those guys were serious PvPers until they undocked their first excavators.
It's a slippery slope.
To 10 Rorquals?
Mm-hmm.
You guys got any more thoughts on that?
It's the thing I've been harping on on all my stories. You can really do a whole lot just by being willing to find something that you're looking to do.
Mm-hmm. Also, talk to your alliance. Like, they offer tools. Every alliance or any alliance worth its salt will try to keep you in the game and keep you in their alliance. So they're going to have FC classes, or they're going to have tools so that we can mine or learn how to mine, and classes and stuff like that. Everyone wants to keep you in the game.
Yeah, luckily for us, Meredudd's story is less common nowadays. The recruitment scam. People have finally realized that the person is probably more valuable than any of the assets. So if you're ever underappreciated where you are, know you can go somewhere else. There's always someone looking for a fighter. Or a miner.
Or a logistician.
I mean, even just asking into a group like here in the Discord chat for this show, not everyone is going to try to recruit you into their personal group, but if you express an interest into a certain style of gameplay, any of us could push you into a direction of space that would suit you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like to hold shotguns and shoot at everyone that comes through their yard. Wormholers.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
I mean, never not.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. This coming week, if you are lacking some real life time with real life space nerds, if you're in the Vancouver, Canada area, the monthly meetup is on tomorrow at Boston Pizza, the regular space, regular time. Hit me up if you don't know where that is, and I can help you out. I should be there, and a bunch of other nerds. We usually get like 6 to 10. Good times. There's a lot of good pictures from Event London, which was this weekend. Looked like there was a lot of nerds hanging out there in London. This weekend, on the 21st, there's the San Diego monthly meetup. It's in San Diego. We get the Sydney Eve meetup on November 25th. That's in Sydney, Australia. And then there's a Japan player meetup in Akihabara. Oh god, fuck it. If you're in Japan, go find that shit. There's probably a bullet train there. It's on November 25th. And the Houston monthly meetup is on November 25th as well. It's in Houston. All right. Let's get down to the shoutouts. Let's start at the bottom with Riordan.
I'd like to give a shout out to someone I mentioned earlier, Lightblade, a little solo pilot who gave me my fit for my newest slashers. Got me into a lot of good fights already, and his advice has helped me out quite a bit. So thank you, Lightblade.
Great. Night?
I'm just gonna give a general no soft shout out to them. So all the guys in our alliance and all.
Beautiful. John?
No, I really don't have any shoutouts, and I took my shout out. Although if anyone is interested in attempting or trying wormholes, we are recruiting. We want you to make mistakes.
Her whole alliance ad is about a mistake. We are a mistake.
We are a mistake.
Plan B pill failed.
I mean, that is the selling feature right there.
Mm-hmm.
This week I'm going to shout out all of my 0500 crew back in Iron Armada, making 0500 great again. All right. So thank you all for listening. If you are listening live and you missed a portion of the show, this show is also available on podcast. You can follow us through mindclash.live. You can track us down on the Crossing Zebras website through their RSS feed. You can also track us down on eve-podcast.com. Subscribing to any of those RSSs will get you a whole wealth of content, Eve podcast-wise. Check those out. If you're listening to this in post and you haven't checked us out live, you can follow us and join along in the Twitch chat on Mondays, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, 0300 Tuesdays Eve time at twitch.tv/mindclashlive. We most of the time, almost sort of sometimes start on time. And you can also watch us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. It's Mindclash Live. We also have a Twitter for myself, for the show. I'm at Meredudd_Eve, and you can catch all the updates there. But really, if you want to stay up to date with the show, you want to shit talk the guys from NoSoft, if you want to be a guest on the show, come join us in the Discord. Discord link is everywhere. You can ping me if you can't find it. Come join us in the Discord, and you can shit it up during the week. Don't ping very often. Kind of hang out. You can post your cool kills. You can throw shade at your enemies. You can propose us a show topic. We're always looking for new guests for new shows, and we'd love to have your voice on and let you ramble on for a few minutes, or maybe the whole show. So once again, thank you for coming. Thanks for our guests. Thank you guys for coming to make the show possible. And we'll see you all next week for episode 64. Not even sure what it's going to be about. We'll find something for another episode of the Mind Clash podcast. All right.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.